We are live again. Let's see if we get any of our viewers back. We may not. It's gonna suck. I've never had that many viewers before. I should probably do this a little more often. All right. Well, one viewer's back. Let's see if we can get any of the other 28. I'm here. I'm just looking at the back side of this so I can keep an eye on the chat. Oh, it's gonna suck if nobody comes back. Well, either way, if you come back, great. If they don't come back, well, they don't come back. Is what it is. But anyhow, with the 220 grit, just going to continue with this cross pattern, sanding down this primer until all of that black is gone off of here. I like to keep a mental note of how many times I'm going across, so that I'm keeping the primer pretty even. Not that 220 is super aggressive, but now there are a couple areas when you get over here towards the side, you may have to go straight up and down a little bit, but don't do it too terribly much. Now, even though when I started on this in the other video, I had showed you guys that I started here because that is the crest of this panel. I wanted to get this block down because there was just layers and layers and layers on this. But even though that's the case, probably two of the most important things to blocking is not just the sanding, but the paying attention to what's going on underneath your fingers and your block. Like, I can feel that crust still is up there a little bit. I actually think it's a little sunken down maybe, and that this is higher. So I'll probably spend a little more time on this side. And I was able to confirm that by staying on this side of it because that sanded away really quick as opposed to going over and making a little bit of a ramp. So probably need to stay down here just a little bit further, and these are just tips that you do pick up with, like, the feel of blocking does come with time, but you will feel the panel. Like, you're going to feel where the dips are. You're going to feel it in your hands. You're going to feel it in your fingertips. You're going to feel the block move when it hits it. It's just one of those things. And I'll tell you, if you're doing one of these and it's a first time, like I was originally talking about, maybe a father-son project, maybe a father-daughter project, maybe just a backyard project that you're working on. Again, you don't need to spend the thousands and thousands of dollars to buy all the tools to get a straight car. And frankly, this is the best way to learn. You do one car by hand, you're going to learn so much about bodywork that you're not going to have any problems from there forward. I assure you, at least as far as, the prep goes and taking care of dents and things like that. Do one by hand. I promise you'll be fine. You will get enough experience in one car. By the way, when you have been doing this a long time, gotta tell you, kind of sucks to do it by hand. But if most people avoid painting their own cars, doing any type of their own body work because they're just scared of it. You know, they're scared they won't get the panel straight. We've all seen the crappy looking cars, you know, that look like you can go surfing down the side of them because they're wavy. And with just some very basic tools, you can get a car very show quality. And just to prove my point to you guys, for some of you that may just be tuning in, what have you, 3,000. Missed a spot. I missed a bunch of spots. Ashley Brown, how are you? 3,000 grit? No, that is 220 grit. All right, let's go over to the truck. By the way, can you guys hear me in the chat okay? Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down, anything? My microphone says it's working. Anyways, let's go over to the truck. So check it out. That's the OBS GMC. I have done every bit of this truck with nothing but sanding blocks and by hand and what have you. And some of it's already been painted. We will go over. So door jambs are all painted, all nice and shiny. Under, I gotta unmask it anyhow. The back cab is all painted, so that's all done. A-pillars are gonna get painted when I shoot the rest of the body. The same thing for this side. Roof is all prepped, ready to go. Hood is all prepped, ready to go. Completely hand sanded. Can you guys hear me okay? Anyways, that door jamb has been painted, so that'll get masked off when I paint the cab. But as I've explained, every bit of this, oh, there's the bed. It's all been primered, that's all done. I'm missing that side. And they discontinued making them. But there's enough of them around that I found a ton of them on the Craigslist, so, and Facebook Marketplace. But anyways, let's get back to the tailgate here. All right, so while you're blocking, you want to tamp your paper so that you get all that buildup out of there. Although this is pretty decent primer, it doesn't clog up your paper if you let it sit. This was primered a few days ago, so it's really good to block. It's not clogging up your paper or anything. I really wanted to spend the time. You could probably block the whole thing with just 2 pieces, but I'm not going to. It takes too long. So using that cross pattern for blocking, just want to keep going, and you basically want to get every bit of that black guide coat, or in this case, black primer. I don't like using dry guide coat. Not for any reason, it's just personal preference. All right, feels a little high in this. And these are spots that, again, I'm feeling it by under my fingers that it's not right. So I know it needs a little more sanding right there. I'm, again, making sure the crest of this panel where I had sanded this prior because it was so high, I had sanded that down prior. Now I'm sanding up into it, and I can feel right along here where my block actually, when I get here, it rocks down a little bit. So I need to spend more time blocking down here. And that's just, again, it's something you're going to pick up in time. And it comes pretty quick. The difficult part, actually the difficult part of it is learning through what you can feel and what you can see with your eyes. Probably the hardest part is determining the high spots and some of the low spots. Like they can trick you a little bit. You think you got a high spot and it's actually a low spot, and you're chasing it for a ungodly amount of time. Doing the same thing over here, by the way. That's what happens when you let your when you let your primer actually sit the way it's supposed to. Some of my other videos I've talked about, like when you primer something, it is not ready to paint the same day or the day after. And if you ask me, it's not even ready the day after that. I like everything to sit for at least a week before I even start to block it, because it's going to dry. And, you know, we use primer as a base to block from. So, I mean, we put this on pretty thick. You know, you need it to dry all the way through. And I know you guys have seen this a million times. You go to the car shows and you're looking at somebody's paint job and you can see all the little microscopic, what we call pigtails. It's not in the paint, and it's not that they didn't do the prep right, it's that they didn't let the primer dry. And when it shrunk, those sand marks magnify. The downside of that is it's typically underneath your clear coat, not on top. So it's not going away. That's the importance of letting your primer dry. You know, it used to be way back in the 50s and 60s, like when they were using lacquer primer. Like if you were doing a lacquer paint job, you were talking a year before that vehicle was ready. Well, they used to say for a show paint job with lacquer, like you wanted 8 months for that lacquer primer to completely cure all the way through. If you didn't want it to spider crack years and years down the road, because that was the downside of lacquer. You can get lacquer correct. Like you just got to be really patient. Primer the car, let it go sit for a year. That's how you get a lacquer paint job to last. Frankly, I don't know why anybody would want lacquer. Anyone that tells you that the paint then was better than it is now, I want your dope man's number. I want some of what the hell you're smoking. Because the paint nowadays is 100 times better. So much easier to use. It's way more user friendly, especially for the do-it-yourselfer. I mean, how hard is it to pour color and then pour the same amount of reducer and there's your paint? Like that's your base coat. But I think what happens is people really avoid this because they've seen such bad body work. And that comes from a multitude of places. It's generally not lack of experience either. It's more financially driven, more than anything. Like I gotta tell you, if I've seen bad paint jobs, most of them have been financially driven. Okay, right there, I do have to go back and forth straight over it. Feels a little wonky, which would make sense because the handles here, this is a spot that gets slammed and pushed in and banged and yanked and what have you. So you would expect that the sheet metal around this area to have more fatigue than the overall panel itself. By the way, can you guys hear me? Again, I'm not looking at the chat, so I have no idea. I still feel it underneath there, but let's get this clean. There, now we can see what we're working with. All right, when I switched paper, I switched to 320 grit. I didn't want to go as aggressive as I was with the 220. Now that we're getting down and you can see the majority of that black has gone off of there, still got to do some blocking through here because it's all got to be gone. Otherwise, you're not going to know if you got denser high spots or what have you. This is kind of a tough little area because it's so close to the edge, but I'm going to hang. I don't want to sand this away, so kind of stuck with just sticking in this little area and still keeping the block flat and continuing the cross pattern. Feels like it needs to be. It's flat, but the radius just feels a little exaggerated still from the amount of primer that's on there. We may possibly have a dent right there. Clean out that paper and hit it once. Nope, nope. Okay, it's the importance of cleaning your paper out. And getting all that clogged up primer off of there is it will just guide over low spots and stuff like that. It'll try and fill them with the residue. So clean your paper often. It'll save you a lot of time sanding. And if you want to know how long it's taken me to hand prep the tailgate, I'm gonna say I probably got a total of 3 days in total into this so far. Still feeling a little something through there. That's right there by that handle. There, that's shaping up nice now. The other thing you'll listen to when you're the other thing you'll look for, maybe, no, you're not going to look for it. You're going to listen for it. You're going to listen to your sandpaper while you're blocking. Okay? Think of block sanding like marriage counseling. They want you to look, listen, and feel, right? Yeah, think of it as marriage counseling. That's what block sanding is. Just a lot easier. So you want to look at your surface, you want to feel your surface and you want to listen to your sandpaper. Especially if you hear a screech, stop immediately. Like, you do not want to hear a screech. A screech is a piece of dirt that got on your sandpaper, and now it is putting huge scratches in your primer. So avoid the screech. Whew. Know where y'all are at, but it's hot here. Still in the 90s tonight. I stink. Check it out. Can you hear it? Listen for the tone to change. There's a ridge right there. Hear that sandpaper smoothing out? Hear how much smoother it's gliding across the surface as opposed to how scratchy it was before? That's the sound you're looking for. It's really apparent when you're wet sanding too. Some guys prefer to wet sand, some guys prefer to dry sand. For something that was this bad, I'm just gonna dry sand it. I'm totally expecting that this was gonna have to be primer coated one more time. It's gonna be kind of a thin coat, but I knew it was gonna need one more coat on it before it was all said and done. All right, that is looking pretty good so far. Got a little more attention to detail down here. It's not terrible. Still got 2 people watching, huh? But over here, still got a pretty low spot. You can see that black etch primer still. Yeah, and I can feel it. But that will block out. Now, what you don't want to do is just completely concentrate on that one area. Once you get it down there, you are going to have to go over the whole thing again just to make sure that you're nice and even. It'll be a pretty sharp looking tailgate for as crafty as it was. Okay. Now that I've gone over it all with the hard block, grab a piece of my 400, and this is a 3M. It's a flexible block. It's pretty soft. Take a piece of 400, even though I am going to primer this one more time, and just go over the whole thing, smooth it all out. Let's make sure we've gotten all those big scratches out of there so that we have a really nice primer surface to put that next coat on to. And then we'll do one more quick block and it'll be ready to go. So even with this block, a flexible block, hold on. I can still feel, and actually I can start to see it now. The sheet metal is just a tad higher, I think. I think it's a tad higher right there. And that's what's, as I'm sliding over it with this flexible block, it grabs it and it slows you down. So you know right where it's at. It's actually evening out pretty nice. And if you listen, there it goes. Almost got it. There. Listen how smooth that paper is gliding over that area now. That is perfectly flat. Again, go back with our cross pattern just to make sure. And that's all it takes. Well, shouldn't say that's all it takes. I have spent 3 days on this tailgate. Anyways, guys, I'm going to tune off. I hope you learned something about blocking and that got to see it yourself. That is just smooth as can be. And once we give this one more coat, thing's going to be in great shape. Hey, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Catch you next time.